Thank you for joining us today to hear a little bit about how you can support teachers in your district with the emotional literacy construct progression. I'm Nikki Young, and I'm the regional consultant serving the Northwest region of the state. And with me today is Cindy Dewey, who serves the Piedmont Triad, and Donna Alba, who works in the Western region of the state. There are a few materials that will be helpful to you today as we go through the presentation. They're listed here, and they're also all linked in the same place where you found this video. It'll be particularly important for you to have your team planning template and the sample planning template ready to use. So many of you have a team planning template, but you'll want to make sure that you have that available to you. And also the sample, just to provide you some guidance and some ideas around what we're focusing on today. You can make any adaptations to your planning template. We want to make sure that you use it in a way that's most helpful to you to support your implementation. And today we'll be focusing on just one particular goal in the template, which is the KEA content goal. So again, one of the links that we shared with you is the sample planning template, and this really may give you some great ideas for how to support this KEA content goal. So here you see the KEA content goal listed. This goal is about making sure that your district implementation team and whoever provides the PD in your district has a plan for supporting teachers in an ongoing way with this KEA content. Now, an important question as we get started is, why do we need to support children in their emotional social development? And we've listed here just a few research findings. We know, and it's well documented in the literature, that children with strong social skills are more likely to thrive as adults. So you see here just a few things about when we see an increase in a child's social competence. We know that they're twice as likely to attain a college degree. 54% more likely to earn a high school diploma, more likely to have a full-time job by the time they're 25. And those are just a few of the findings that you can find in the report linked at the bottom of this slide. It's very interesting and eye-opening about how significant this work is to support children. Now, in terms of the North Carolina K-3 formative assessment process, there are two construct progressions that support the domain of emotional social development. Kindergarten teachers across the state have been using the emotional literacy construct progression as part of the kindergarten entry assessment. And that construct progression is appropriate for children developmental age 3 through 6. And then within this domain, there's also the emotion regulation construct progression. Now that's a K-3 construct progression, so it's appropriate for children developmental age 3 to 10. It could be used starting in kindergarten, and teachers can continue to use it throughout the K-3 process.
One of the handouts that's available to you is the Emotional Literacy Quick Guide. And it contains this sort of salmon-colored area that is significant because it shows why focus on emotional literacy. And Nikki talked a little bit about that. Here we have just a brief bit of research that highlights that, along with these two areas of this table that talks about what the construct is about and what it's not about. We just want to call your attention to specifically this construct is about helping our students to identify their emotions and to put some language to them. And then what it's not about is really sort of categorizing emotions as good or bad, or shaming students for having emotions. We want them to express their emotions and to be able to put some language to them. Another part of this emotional literacy quick guide is the construct itself. So let's just walk through a little bit of this construct together, sort of to deepen our understanding. Let's start just by looking at skill step D. This is where we start to scaffold for our students. So with some support from an adult, we start to begin to teach our students how to label emotions in themselves and in others. And then look what happens at E. We're going to be looking for when students can do this on their own. And then at F, they are starting to label higher order emotions. So we have a couple of examples of what that might be. Instead of just happy, mad, sad, now they're doing things like confused, worried, surprised, and in themselves and in others. And then when we get to G, this is where we start to see causality. Something happens, and then I'm able to map an emotion to that. Also in the quick guide, there are some strategies for teachers to use. We've included just a few strategies here, and just wanted to highlight this example. This is something teachers can do easily in their daily routine, a check-in where students come in and they're able to use a visual of some kind to identify how they're feeling, and then teachers can scaffold with students as we talked about on the construct progression, to show how they're feeling, to identify their emotion for that day as they're coming in. The mirroring strategy is a strategy that can be used early on in the construct progression. And here's a way that if you're starting to notice that students are coming in, for example, let's look at skill step B. If you have a student that is exaggerating expression of emotion to get their needs met and are not yet able to label their emotions, you can use this mirroring strategy where students are looking at themselves in the mirror to see what emotions that they are expressing, and you can help them to map that language to them, to their emotions. And help them to move along this construct progression then. So then they can be expressing emotions and starting to map the language to them with your support, and then moving to independently doing that. Another strategy you can use with your students is a feelings journal. Feelings journal is something that you might use with students when they are working on the upper end of this construct progression. Let's look at skill step G. Here it says explains that an event can cause certain emotions. So a feelings journal really is about that causality. I feel blank when. So we're thinking about our emotions and something happened. So this might be a good place to do this as a small group activity or in a center where you can start to elicit some documentation from students around their emotional literacy, and then start to help them move forward so they can move to skill step H, where maybe there's more than one event that's causing, or an event that's causing more than one emotion, and then on to I, where they can compare and see maybe this event caused people to feel in different ways.
And that often occurs through the use of storybooks as educators share read-alouds with students in the classroom, or they're selecting on their own self-selecting text. We know that there are a number of ways that we connect to the characters in the text and how those characters are feeling, their emotional expressions within that text. So that's one other way that we know that we often have the ability to help students better understand emotions and name emotions, and can tie emotions to events that occur in a text throughout your literature. And a book nook and book list is a great resource that's being offered here. There's a link at the bottom of this slide to CEPHL. That's an organization that provides a lot of resources to support social and emotional literacy and development. There are resources for families. So if you're not familiar with this resource, it's a great one to bookmark and share widely, as there are many resources available at CEPHL through the Book Nook and Book List here.
We also wanted to provide you this example from Alamance Burlington School System. They've done a great job this year with using their data to find out what their teachers need. And they surveyed their teachers and their principals and found out that this was an area, this emotional social development was an area where teachers were asking for additional support. And so they planned a PD session around that. And here you'll see that they brought their teachers together and they made these stress balls. And then they talked about the quick guides for both emotional literacy and emotion regulation and how they could use those to support students in the classroom.
And that brings us to planning. So your team planning time, using that template that's been provided, you have that link to think through some of these resources and how those resources might be integrated into your template and your plan as you think about the KEA content related to social and emotional learning and development in young children. Thank you. We appreciate you spending time with us.